Hey boaters, Keith McGowan here. I am the Outboard Dad, here to help you have a better boating experience. Today we're going to continue on with our rebuild or our tear down to see if it's worth it to rebuild. Don't forget my used outboard motor buying guides for sale on Amazon now for $20. And for a limited time, offering a free half-hour session over the phone. If you send me proof of purchase at keith@outboarddad.com, then I will help you with a motor you're buying or a motor you're working on. We got all of those intake manifold bolts off. Now we're going to take our mallet, we're going to look around, make sure I didn't miss one. Sometimes it's easy to miss one or two. And looks like we got them all. So we'll give it a little tap tap. Now let's see what these reed plates look like. So we can inspect these closer. I'm definitely going to put my glasses on. I don't see anything that's jumping out at me obvious that's wrong with the reed plates. I don't see any broken ones. They all seem to be even and flat. But we're going to go in there with a feeler gauge and we're going to get my cheater glasses out and just make sure everything's okay. But at first glance, looks pretty good. Now I can see into my crank, to my rods, but I can't see completely. It does turn freely and nicely. I'm looking now inside for any holes I see in the block, sometimes when metal flies around. But ultimately, we got to get this half off of here so that we can go ahead and continue to get the rods out. You know, the two I want to take out first are this side, because this is the side, our port side, was the one that had no compression. So let's get, first we got to get our caps off, top and bottom. We'll get them out of there first, and then we'll disconnect this half of the motor, get that split the case, so to speak, and we'll see what it looks like. Got all the bolts out of this. We got all the bolts out of the bearing carrier up top. Now we got all the bolts out of here. The one at the top is an Allen bolt, so you can access it. Now we're just gonna break it loose. Tapping carefully, making sure I didn't miss any bolts. Also, we removed our bleeder tubes that go to each cylinder, leaving them on the manifold so that we don't have to look next time where they go. So there are a couple dowel pins. There's one in this top corner here that align this. The one over on this side, it seems to be broken loose. We just got to get the one on this side broken loose. Rock it back and forth a bunch more times. And there we go. So the first thing we want to look at is not to lose that bolt. That's one of the inside large bolts. And we want to look in here and make sure there's no damage inside here. Looks very clean. Sometimes you'll see a hole where bits of metal, like bits of rings or something like that, get worn in there. Now we can take these two pistons out. Let's see what they look like. Interestingly enough, these are 8mm star socket, just like Mercury, Yamaha. I wonder if someone makes these for everybody. Let's get this first piston out of here. Now, if you remember, I don't have a clean spot here. I'm going to get a clean rag where I can put my connecting rods on, because I want to keep them in line the same way that they came off. I want to put them back on. So I'm all kinds of excited to see what it looks like, but I have to make sure I'm following this. So I'm going to put this aside, same way. I'm going to take a quick look at it, make sure there's no major damage. Going to take the half of the bearing on the top, same orientation. I'm going to take the bottom one, same orientation. Now let's pop this puppy out and see what it looks like. Well, rings are not stuck, but we definitely have a lot of wear there, right? So let's clean this up a little bit. Interestingly enough, I've seen a whole lot worse. Let's take a look at that Mercury piston. So our Mercury rebuild, if you saw my videos on that, this still had compression. It had like 105 pounds where the other ones were 125. And amazingly enough, no, it didn't spit a ring, but pretty badly damaged. This really doesn't look as bad, does it? Similar, but crazy how we didn't have compression on this. Were these rings really stuck and all the banging around that I did broke them loose? I don't know. We're gonna have to look at that cylinder wall next. Let's get the other piston out. First, I held this in the same way. I also know which way is my exhaust on this. And I want to make sure I'm checking my journal. Looks really good. Checking my play. There's no play in there. And I want to put this back together the same way that it came apart. Set that aside. Let's check the other piston. If you remember from the Mercury build, so any of you who watched my series on the Mercury 150 rebuild, these rods are cracked. So they drill holes in them. That's why you see the holes in the sides, and I'll show you a little closer. This one looks good. Put it aside. Journal on the crank looks good on both of them. We'll spin it around to check it fully. Put it down there, but these are cracked and in place. So let's take a look at this one. This time I'm going to put this on here right now and hold it so I don't flip it over. Now, it does have a place where it's labeled where the exhaust, plus there's ports on there where the exhaust is. Just want to make sure I put this exactly back together the way it came apart. So I'm going to hold on to this. Now this one's got even more damage, and the rings are stuck. So the rings are not moving here. You can see how it's out at the top but not at the bottom. So that bottom ring is, well, the top ring, only half of it's moving. This side is stuck. So only this side is moving. So that makes sense why this one, maybe the other one kind of broke loose. But you can see the damage on the piston, and you can see how that scoring just pinched those rings. Let me put this aside now. So we're going to continue on, take the other ones out. We're going to flip the block over, and we'll look at those cylinder walls to make sure there's no chunks out of them in places we couldn't see. And we're going to inspect this crankshaft, turn it over, and we're going to make sure the journals don't have any damage on them where we removed our rods. So far, so good. All the other bearings look good, so we're going to get the other two pistons out. We'll inspect them, see what they look like since they had such higher compression.